Hey everyone, hope everyone is doing all right in these rapidly changing times. I know that I'm a little anxious about some of the lockdowns with the virus, but making do, and my dogs are definitely happy to see me at home. You may actually hear some barking in this video, so hopefully they're a little worn down since I just went outside and was running around with them. So hope all of you are being able to get outside and exercise a little bit, since it's definitely making me feel better in some nice weather that we're getting. So in this video, what we're going to look at is Autodesk's Fusion 360. So while we've used Autodesk Inventor a lot in class, I'm looking at different options for other CAD software that might be a bit more accessible to you while the schools are closed. So one of the first things that you can notice is that I'm currently using a Mac. I'm not using Windows right now. And that's because Fusion 360 is able to run on both Macintosh and Windows computers, at least being able to actually do the modeling and design aspects. But because it's also cloud-based, you can actually view the files in a web browser. You can pull them up on a cell phone. I don't believe they're available on Chromebooks, but it's definitely something that I'm looking into. So, in terms of what Fusion 360 does a bit differently from Inventor is that one of the reasons that I've got their website up right now. So why Fusion 360? Well, Fusion 360 is a bit closer to a Swiss Army knife when it comes to computer-aided modeling software. And that's because as CAD software, industrial designers and mechanical engineers can actually design their products, but it's also able to work with computer-aided manufacturing. The machinists can actually take these same files and they can use this software to run their CNC milling equipment, just like we've got the ShopBot in the workshop. The other nice thing about being cloud-based is it's very easy to work as a collaborator. One of the reasons that I like and use Fusion 360 is because when I'm doing theater projects, I can go ahead and actually have work with, say, the scenic art designer. He created a lot of these files where he goes ahead and gives us an idea of what it needs to look like and how it's going to be built. And then myself and the technical director can actually do the technical drawings where we can say, this is what it needs to look like. This is how it needs to go ahead and be built. And we can also share this information with the director. We can share it with the art designers, and it makes it a lot easier to go ahead and collaborate on these larger projects. So what we're going to do in terms of Fusion 360 itself is we're going to go ahead and be modeling the same sort of keychain that we've done, that I've got videos of how to do it in Inventor. And the reason I'm doing this is I want you to see that the vocabulary that we've learned about three-dimensional modeling applies to not just Inventor, but pretty much any CAD software that we're going to be using. And we're also going to be going ahead and seeing some of the differences, parts that don't work the same way. So in Inventor, basically the text was one entry, and we're going to find out that that's not quite the same within Fusion 360. So I already have these drawings available. You guys know that you can pull it up on my website. But we're going to try and model this a bit faster than what I've done in the past, just so you can kind of see some of the differences. So within Fusion 360, we've gone ahead and created a new part, and we're basically approaching it the same way. We're choosing, we're going to tell it that we're going to create a sketch, we're choosing which plane that we're going to work with, and our ribbon goes ahead and shows us the tools that are applicable to, in this case, sketching. So we're going to create a circle the same way. We've got a outer diameter of 1.25 inches. We can then go ahead and zoom in a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and finish the sketch and do an extrusion. And the extrusion for the first part of this is going to be 0.1 inches. Not too thick, not too thin. Now I can choose go back to the home view and kind of see how that's shaping up. From there, we're going to go ahead and create another circle. This is the inner one, so we can create the outer rim on it. And this is a 1.1 inch. And then I'm going to go ahead and have the projection for the first one, so we're able to go ahead and have both of the lines, so we have a solid shape available. Finishing the sketch, doing an extrusion. In this case, we're going to come out another 0.05 inches, and we can see that that rim was created. Next up is where we're going to start looking at how to go ahead and do the cut extrusion, and how to use some of these constraints that are a bit more prominently available within Fusion360. So I'm actually going to create it off to the side, so we'll see how the constraints go ahead and apply it. In this case, the diameter of 0.125, and then we can tell it that the center point of this needs to be in line with the center point of the origin point. And then we can use the dimensioning tool, which is, let's see, I'm used to some of the shortcuts because typically I can go ahead and just say that I want to put in a dimension. So I know the shortcut is just hitting D, but I'm forgetting where it actually is in the, right there. Sketch dimension, the same sort of extrusion lines and dimension lines that we've seen before. So we're going to tell it that from the center point to the top, we want that dimension to be, in my technical drawing, that's not the dimension we want. We actually want from the outer rim. Clear that out a little bit. We'll go ahead and just adapt this. So one of the cool things about all of the CAD software we've been using is it can go ahead and do the calculations for us. So we know that if the diameter is 1.25, we can go ahead and divide that by 2 to go ahead and get the radius, because that's kind of the drawing that it's got. And then we can go ahead and have it subtract 0.175. So that goes ahead and places it, and again, does the math. You guys, as long as you know what information you have and how you can modify it, can go ahead and make it a little easier. Now, one of the things that I'm not as fond of Fusion360 is it does not necessarily have the fully constrained listings that we've usually seen within Fusion360. Now, that gets problematic sometimes because we don't want to be able to go ahead and rotate pieces around. So next up, we're going to go ahead and finish that sketch. We're going to go ahead and do the extrusion to make it a hole, and within this we can tell it that the operation is to go ahead and cut, and we're going to go ahead and do the full all cut. Next up, we're going to go ahead and create some of the text. So again, tell it what face you want to create. Go to the text menu, and then we're going to go ahead and set an origin point for the text. Then we'll go ahead and type in, I'm going to go ahead and make this a Fusion360 keychain rather than putting in my own initials. You're of course welcome to play around with the sketching tools, the different options that are available. But we're going to go ahead and apply that, and this is where it's a little bit more on the artistic side. We can go ahead and reshape it as we choose to, but to go ahead and center this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the symmetry constraint tool. I'm going to select each of the corners, and then forgot to go ahead and create a center line for it. So same sketch, line tool. I'm going to make it a construction line just to make it a little simpler. Keep it perfectly vertical. We'll go ahead and finish that sketch. And then we can go ahead and use the symmetry tool to go ahead and line it up. So, depending on the location of these sides, that's deciding what is the center point. So if I go ahead and resize it a little bit, but I make sure that the text box is hitting the extreme sides, that'll go ahead and center that for me. And then I need to do the same thing, create some text, say we're going to make a keychain. Not sure why that didn't pop up. Let's try it again. So create text. All right. So a little larger, but again, I'm going to go ahead and use the tools, reshaping it, to go ahead and choose the size. Now, when it actually comes time to 3D printing these, keep in mind that the size or the abilities of the 3D printers definitely influence what we can do with the design. But that's true with any form of manufacturing that we might end up doing. So, just eyeballing it, I think that looks pretty good. We're going to apply the same sort of symmetry constraints to go ahead and lock it in place. So, hitting the corners, and then the symmetry line, and then can go ahead and adjust it as needed. So I think that looks all right. Now we could go ahead and continue doing some dimensioning and finishing it up, but we're going to go ahead and finish up that sketch, do the extrusion, and we know that it's going to be a 0.05. to go ahead and finish it up. So at this point, I could go ahead and send it off to a 3D printer, or I could go ahead and save it as an STL file and export it. But hopefully this gives you an idea of some of the differences within the software, how we're not creating as many individual features. It's not shown in the browser quite the same way. And we're having kind of a history, so we can actually watch a video of how we ended up constructing it. So there's definitely some cool things about this, definitely some differences from Inventor, but it's an option that's available, and like I said, the nice things about this one is it's cross-platform, and it still gives us a lot of opportunities beyond just what we've covered in class. So hope you enjoys this, hopes this helps out, and we'll see where we go from here.